The Power Factor Show with Rick, Steve, and Caleb. Episode 46.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Brought to you by Safariland.
Sure, why not? Welcome to the Power Factor Show. I'm Caleb.
I'm Rick.
And today we're talking about bug guns. And no, not guns for shooting little bugs in your house. If you do that, your wife will get pissed. Backup guns. It's an IDPA special category.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting, it's listed in the rule book as a division, but at the same time, the rule book says it will not be recognized at sanctioned matches. So if you shoot like a championships, national championship, you will never have a bug division competing at the match. Where we usually see it, at least locally, and where I've seen it, is as a side stage run in conjunction with a match. So it'll be scored separately, maybe won't shoot the same stages that comprise the regular match, but it's usually run as kind of a separate event.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll also see local clubs will put together a bug match where they'll set up, the stages will all be designed to be friendly to, 5-shot wheel guns and, little stupid 380s and that sort of thing. And again, those are all done at a local level. Like Rick said, at major matches, the most you'll see is a side like a bug side stage or something like that, where you pay $5 and you shoot somebody's car, PM, whatever, and everyone has fun with it.
Yeah, I actually tried. We were going to run a bug match, like scored apart from the other divisions, but still allowing people to shoot their bug guns at a regular IDPA match, which would, of course, require that they have an IDPA legal holster. They'd need 2 or 3 magazines. They'd need speed loaders and speed strips. And actually, very few people have all of that gear for their little pocket pistols. And so not very many people were going to compete under those conditions anyway, but it became quite a hassle trying to determine if it was even legal to do so. Mm-hmm. Because, for instance, if you're shooting in bug division, you're not allowed to load more than 5, regardless of the gun's capacity. You're not allowed, apparently, to shoot strings that require more than 5 rounds. So if you were going to allow people to shoot bugs in a match, you would essentially have to break the bug rules in order to let them shoot, because they could still load 5, but if you're running a regular match with 18-round courses of fire, that violates the bug rules.
Yeah.
So you'd have to come up with some kind of a compromise, and I think at the local level, I don't want to say anything goes, but that would probably work out all right. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed to be that when we've tried to do bug stuff at our club, we end up doing shooting from low ready, because hardly anybody's got a holster. No reloads, of course, even though the rules say no reloads. It's impractical to do it anyway, because hardly anybody has more than 1 mag. And so it really is well suited to a side stage, assuming that what you think a bug is something like a PPK or a J-frame Smith & Wesson.
Exactly.
And the rules are actually fairly generous.
Broad, I would say.
I mean, it's like I was thinking about it on the way over here. If you had an N-frame Smith & Wesson 44 Magnum with a 3-inch barrel,
that's a bug.
That's a bug for you, right there.
And with that, the rules for bug guns, like you said, are very generous. And kind of give you a general rundown of those. You start with the caliber. It's got to be a 32 ACP or larger. So for my friends out there with the 32 Magnum wheel guns and the Ruger SP 101s and 327 Fed Mag, all of those are legal as bug guns. And again, anything larger is legal as well. So you can have a 9mm bug gun. The baby Glocks technically qualify as bug guns.
There's no box.
Right.
There's no weight limit.
Exactly.
It's just barrel length and caliber, really.
So you could actually make a 5-shot, oh my God, you could have the, what is it? Ruger makes it, the Ruger Alaskan.
Oh, okay.
It's a 454 Kasua with like a 2-inch, it's the most ridiculous. Smith & Wesson makes a 2-inch 500 Magnum. That's a bug gun, guys. So there you go. Your next bug gun match, show up with a 500 Magnum. You'll be the coolest kid at school. Don't do that.
Well,
so anyway,
even if you could.
Yeah. So, and then you have barrel length restrictions as well. So for semi-autos, it has to be shorter than 3.8 inches, and revolvers have to be shorter than 3.5.
3.
Shorter than 3.
3 or shorter.
3 or shorter. So again, that's a pretty broad category, and what you end up with is a huge variety of guns that meet the bug criteria. So, we're just we've got a whole bunch of them right here. And I think I'll start with the biggest caliber. I'll take the 9 and the 45, and I don't want to touch that 380. So, for example, this is a Kimber Ultra CDP Elite 2 in 45 ACP. It has a 3-inch barrel. It's the closest analogy to a proper 1911 would be an officer-framed 1911. This is technically a bug gun according to IDPA rules, although in my opinion, you would be crazy to shoot one of these and crazier to carry one of these. Now, I say this because our producer, this is actually his carry gun, and I think he's a madman for betting his life on this little thing. But to each his own. So this is technically a bug gun. Moving up on the bug gun scale, or down, depending on how you want to look at it, is a gun I actually used in IDPA competition. And that's where you kind of get crazy with bug guns, because a Ruger SR9 Compact, which I have right here, this has a 3.5-inch barrel, so it's legal for bug guns from an IDPA point of view. It uses 10-round mags normally that fit flush with the grip, but if you have a full-sized SR9, the 17-round mags fit in this just fine. So for IDPA competition, I'd use those because they're a little bit easier to reload. But again, this, technically a bug gun. This particular one is set up with excess sights, which are terrible for anything other than close range work, but work pretty well on a carry gun, I gotta say. And then, I would say what people think of primarily when they're talking about bug guns are little guns like this. Rick, you want to take care of that one?
Okay. This is a Ruger LCP with a laser on it. This is another carry gun that could obviously be pressed into service as a bug. 380 caliber, so it fits. That barrel looks like it's about 1.5 inches, so certainly it meets that requirement. The little baby magazine, I'm sure, holds 5 rounds, so that would get it done. When I've shot bug courses of fire with a 380, I rely on this old guy, which, as you can see, is considerably larger, which maybe makes it less suitable as a pocket gun.
It's also way sexier, though.
Yeah, well, you got that going for you. But it's actually something that you can hold on to. You can get 3 fingers on the frame. It's got a little bit of a sight radius compromised by a little bit of a sight on there.
It's true.
I think our producer is going to edit in magically here a video of me actually shooting this, and you'll hear my comment on the sights. Where's the sight?
Jacked up on the drum.
Yeah, there's
But this is this is the kind of gun that I think you would probably never use as an IDPA competition gun outside of a bug stage.
No, absolutely not.
Unlike the Ruger,
the SR9C,
the SR9 or
even the Kimber.
Yeah, I mean, I've shot this gun. I've shot this a lot in bug matches, which is a gun that's been featured on the show before. I've actually shot this in CDP at 3 sanctioned IDPA matches.
Oh, right on.
And so it's bug legal, but of course it's CDP legal. And the nice thing about this, because it's a 1911 envelope, I can use regular 1911 mags in it. I've stuck this into holsters intended for 5-inch guns. So if I'm transitioning, let's say I go to a match, I shoot the match in CDP division with my 5-inch gun. I walk over to the bug stage. I just stick this in the holster I've already got on.
And it works pretty well.
Yeah, it works great. And so if you've got a bug, like let's say you shoot a Ruger SR9,
the full size
as your regular competition gun, you can go clean up in the bug match using a gun that you're already familiar with.
Takes the same mags.
Yeah, same holster, everything. So you don't necessarily have to go with the spirit of the bug and shoot something like this or shoot a J-frame Smith & Wesson. You can shoot anything that fits the rules, and for me, since I'm a 1911 guy anyway, this for me is a great bug gun. I mean, it weighs 29 ounces. It's heavier than it's heavier than a lot of plastic guns.
That weighs more than my plastic gun.
And so it's not really. It's got the weird sight radius.
It does.
But it's an easy gun to shoot. I mean, relative to something like this, it's a very easy gun to shoot. And
that's kind of cool.
Our club has hosted the Washington State IDPA Championship for the last 10 years. We're turning that over to another club this year, and so we're going to host the IDPA Bug Championship.
Oh, cool.
And although it won't be sanctioned, my plan is that we'll do like 14 5-round stages.
Awesome.
And so it'll be stuff like, shooting while kneeling, shooting from prone, shooting from supine, shooting strong hand, shooting weak hand. bashing people over the head. I mean, it's going to be all this kind of close range, down and
Throw
dirty
your
stuff.
gun.
But I would certainly, shooting that, I would much rather shoot this than shoot this.
Oh, absolutely.
And so while this is, it's a cool carry gun, a pocket gun anyway, when it comes to competition, most people want to kind of stretch the rules to the extent that they can.
Sure.
And this gun has a 3.5-inch barrel. It's heavy, easy to shoot. And so if I were going to pick a gun to shoot for bug competition, this is the one I'd shoot. Although if I were going to carry a gun, literally a backup gun, this is a pretty lousy choice. Even if Don Johnson wore one in an ankle holster on Miami Vice, not a real good backup gun. So, choose your it's still competition. I mean, if you want to win the backup gun match or the backup gun stage, put some thought into it, and get a compact version of the gun you're already shooting. Mm-hmm. That's not a bad way to go if you're choosing a backup gun based on all the criteria that you see in the rule book. Still, going with the action type and stuff that you're familiar with isn't a bad way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, and for the guys who shoot, say, SSR or ESR, it's even easier for those guys. If you're shooting a 4-inch K-frame as your main match gun, your bug gun could be a 3-inch K-frame. Perfectly legal, same gun. You can only load 5 rounds, but since there's no reloads in a proper bug match, it doesn't really matter that you're only loading 5 rounds. Again, and that kind of goes back to if you're treating IDPA like a game or like serious practice, if you look at it as a game and I want to win the bug gun match, then I'm not going to take a Ruger LCP, as great a little carry gun, or a SIG P238, or a airweight J-frame in 357 Magnum, because those aren't fun to shoot at all.
Man, I shot an LCR, the Ruger LCR, which is analogous to the LCP, but it's the little polymer frame revolver, 357, and I can't imagine it's much worse for the guy on the other end than it is for the guy who's shooting it. I mean, that is a fireball. That is a painful thing to shoot. And obviously, if it comes down to either I shoot the guy or I'm dead, it maybe is better than I hate you or throwing rocks. But boy, as for something you're going to practice with or actually putting rounds through it, it's a pretty harsh little thing.
And now, we don't have any of them here because of a great failing on our part, but I will talk about revolvers here for a minute. And you have 2 pretty kind of standard run-of-the-mill choices if you're looking for a bug revolver. Obviously, you've got your Smith & Wesson J-frame. If you are looking for one to game the system, your best bet out there would be a Model 60. It's an all-steel J-frame. You can get them with a 3-inch barrel, so it's right at the edge of the legality envelope. And if you do that and you're into gaming the system, Apex Tactical makes a great drop-in trigger enhancement kit for the J-frame. You literally just drop in new springs, new firing pin. Usually lightens up the trigger pull by 4 or 5 pounds in double action. The other option that's been around for a long time is the Ruger SP-101, which is, again, a great gun to game the system with. Again, it's an all-steel wheel gun. You can get it in 327 Federal, which means you could load 32 Magnum in it have almost no muzzle flip whatsoever. It's a really great little gun, and they're actually a lot of fun to shoot. Kind of the newcomers out there for bug revolvers, you have the Ruger LCR, which is, as Rick mentioned, a polymer frame revolver, kind of the brother to the LCP. You can get that in 38 Special or 357 Magnum. And then you have your, I forget the name of it, the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard. It's got a built-in laser, so I'm not even sure if it's legal because it's got a built-in laser. But
as long as it fits in the box, but of course, there is no box requirement for a backup gun.
So
it should be, as long as you don't turn it on, I think it should probably be okay.
And then there's one more option for bug revolvers that I want to talk about. I'll get to that in just a second. The last bug revolver that I want to talk about it's kind of the cool guy revolver. And it's like if you're shooting a Detonics in the bug division, it's you get style points for that. If you're shooting, and I've seen like 3 of these the whole time I've been shooting, but you can get a Walther P38 with a 2.5-inch barrel, which is, again, sweet cool guy points.
Like from Uncle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you shoot a Colt Cobra or a Colt Detective Special, those were what Colt called the D-frame back in the day. It's a 6-shot 38 Special revolver but they're about the same size as a J-frame. Colt packed an extra round into the cylinder, and for guys who have shot a lot of Smith & Wesson revolvers, everything's totally backwards. You pull back on the cylinder latch to release them, the cylinder rotates in a different direction, it rotates that way, in a different direction from the Smith & Wesson cylinder, but there is something, the first revolver I ever owned was a Colt Trooper Mark III, and like a fool, I traded it for a Glock. Because it was just such a cool gun. It was a terrible gun. If you fired a cylinder full of 357 Magnums through it, the heat from the Magnums would expand the cylinder and lock the gun up. And you had to wait for it to cool down before you could open it up again. So,
well, on a 5-round course of fire, though, that wouldn't really be an issue.
For it,
right?
yeah. So, but it's just the detective specials and the Cobras, I've got a soft spot for them. So if you see one of those, and you can get them on Gunbroker sometimes for ridiculously low prices because people will have done dumb things to them. They'll, engrave their initials on them or try to turn them into a fit special or something like that, which... That actually is a good question. Would a fit special be legal for IDPA, for the bug division? Because the trigger's not fully enclosed by the trigger guard.
Is that a rule?
I have no idea. It just seems like it wouldn't be legal.
I think as long as when it's holstered, the trigger is covered. I don't think there's any other... I don't know that it has to have a trigger guard at all. Okay.
Dear IDPA, can I shoot a fit special end frame in ESR division?
Yeah.
I'd probably get DQ'd for that.
And then the other issue, once you've chosen your gun, is, we kind of addressed it a little bit earlier, is if you're going to run a match by the rules, you have to have an IDPA legal holster. And so, for instance, this is a holster for the Ruger, and it's a great pocket holster. Actually, earlier I was trying to draw from it, and I'll say it's an okay pocket holster.
It is a pocket holster.
It is a pocket holster. That's not IDPA legal. You can't use it. You could use anything that's IDPA legal, but just like on these kind of informal gatherings that we've had at our club, where it's just sort of like, hey, next Saturday there's an IDPA at the match, we're going to do a bug side stage. You find that about half of the people who want to shoot don't have a legal holster. And what you run into is what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you can start either at low ready or start with the gun holstered if you have a legal holster, but if you start at low ready, you have to be like one full step further away from the target, or some trying to make up some kind of handicapping. And, that works in a kind of an informal environment. And I don't really know, unless you wanted to, let's say, have every stage start with the gun in a drawer or the gun in the glove box or something, then where there is no draw from a holster, then that levels the playing field. And you'll probably find different solutions at different clubs. But what we generally try to do is either, you pull the gun out of a box or something, but there's invariably going to be a stage where we'll say, okay, you can start at low ready if you don't have a holster, and then we'll try to either increase the distance or something to try to make the times equivalent, and that's kind of a hassle. But, there are enough holsters on the market. I mean, cheap nylon. I mean, it used to be cheap nylon meant a holster I wouldn't put my gun in, but now there's cheap nylon holsters, and they're, like $15, and they're actually pretty decent holsters, so you don't have to go without. This is a holster that I've used both for regular IDPA matches and for bug stages, and it's just a regular, what's popularly called an Avenger style holster, and something like this is fine. But again, if I'm shooting a 5-inch gun, I can just stick my stubby backup gun into a 5-inch holster, and that's not an issue. But if you're going to shoot much bug, get a legal holster, a strong side belt holster. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You can get an Uncle Mike's or again, these nylon kind of one size fits most deals, and that'll see you through a 5-round stage anyway. So
if you're like me and you prefer Kydex or injection molded holsters over leather holsters, if you do the kind of do like the Glock 26 as your bug gun. If you shoot a G34 or a Glock 17 in IDPA, it makes sense for a Glock 26 to be your bug gun. It's the baby Glock. It fits all the bug criteria. I say it's kind of the same idea as the SR9 Compact. For this, I've got like 3 holsters. I use a Comtac IWB when I carry this. I use a Comtac IWB when I carry this. It's perfectly legal for IDPA, that same holster. So if you carry a subcompact gun, which is something like this or something like the Kimber in an IWB holster, that's a perfectly legal holster for IDPA use. That sort of thing. If for example, this crossbreed holster, which just appeared in my hand out of nowhere, is a perfectly legal holster for IDPA and will fit this Kimber. There's also several different variations of this. So Galco makes their King Tuck. Comptac makes the Comptac Minotaur. I like all Kydex holsters. The leather backing doesn't do much for me. So the Comptac C-Tac is what I use for the Ruger SR9 Compact. And I've had a lot of fun with that, and it works very well for IDPA competition if I'm not too worried about the draw.
And one of the nice things about, one of the things I find in shooting in competition is that if your gun has any kind of shortcomings in terms of the location of the controls or the size of the controls, it becomes pretty obvious real quick.
Oh, yeah, it does.
And in Bug, because you're not reloading, there's some of the manipulations that you're probably not going to have to do. And so, like, when I shoot this gun, it does not have a push-button mag release. It's got the heel-style mag release, so it's really popular 100 years ago. And because I'm not going to do any reloads on the clock, that's not an issue. But if you're going to have to reload on the clock, you probably wouldn't want the heel-style mag release.
You could do nothing but tack loads the whole mag.
That's true, yeah. And pretty tiny little safety on here. I actually this gun does not have an inertia firing pin, so it's really not that great for cocked and locked. So I'll rack it on the draw. I start it with an empty chamber. I don't know that the Bug rules address that.
No,
because
they don't.
It just says you got 5 rounds, and so I start it with an empty chamber, draw it, and rack it. But I think you can accept more compromises like that on a Bug than you would on your regular competition gun, because there's just not a lot of the same kind of stuff that you're going to have to do with the gun manipulations. I've literally fired this gun probably 30 times, and so I've never had to clear any malfunctions. It's stuff that if it happened, if I did get a malfunction, I'd probably do the traditional tap rack bang kind of stuff. But my relative unfamiliarity with it, there's no slide stop on it. To lock the slide back, you actually push the safety up into a second notch here on the slide. So there's some weirdness about it that just because you're only firing 5 shots, it doesn't come into play. And that's one of the reasons, I try to mostly shoot 1911s for all the shooting, all the competition I do, because then all the muscle memory and learned responses and stuff transfer from gun to gun to gun. But for the Bug stages, I don't know how important that is. Just because the limited amount of shooting that you're doing, I think you could probably get away with, you think of popular small pocket autos today, they're starting to trend towards the polymer frame, striker fired, they're all starting to look alike. But if you go back, 50 years, 100 years, you've got PPKs, double action, single action type trigger action. You've got this gun, which is a straightforward single action. You've got the different, the different mag releases, the different safeties, like the PPKs, PPs have the safety up on the slide that you push up for fire. This has the frame-mounted safety you push down for fire, and all that stuff that I would probably work against you if you were trying to transition on a regular basis amongst the different features. For a Bug, I don't think it matters. I think you could shoot, this,
pretty much
shoot
anything.
This for your scored stages, go to the side stage and shoot a J-frame, and it's probably not going to have a whole lot of effect on your score.
Yeah. I do want to bring something up here for just a second. This is a modern 380 carry gun. It's designed by, I'm not going to say who it was designed by because that'll start all sorts of internet flame wars, but this is made by Ruger, and it's pretty much, this has really become the industry standard for pocket carry guns. Now, I want to look at this 1908 Colt here, which was designed by John Moses Browning, who sits at the right hand of the Lord now. This is what a gun should look like. Gun makers, I want you to look at something here. This is beautiful. This is artisanship right here. This is a hunk of plastic. And this works. It's great. It's functional, but this has got soul. I'm probably going to get flamed for that, but I would rather have one of these than a mountain of those. And just because this is a great gun. This is an awesome gun, people. Just saying. Sorry. I get a little nostalgic about Colt's autos. They do something to me, especially the classics like an 08. That's just beautiful. I have nothing left to say about pocket guns. We have exhausted this tiny IDPA division.
Yeah, and I think, leaving a small quantity of information out there on a division for small guns that are shot very little is maybe very appropriate.
It's very poetic. I think it ties everything together.
Yes. So until next time, if you need to contact us and talk to us about our dissing big dot sights or how we think a 29-ounce gun is appropriate for pocket wear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, just give us a call at powerfactorshow.com for the website and powerfactorshow@gmail.com for email.
Or hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/powerfactorshow. And make sure to like the page when you're there. We won't do anything if you like it, but it makes us feel special.
So until next time, I'm Rick.
I'm Caleb. See you later, guys.